Alright, so I noticed that there's no videos online. They're mostly write-ups and pictures of how to remove the damper from the slave cylinder. And first of all, I'll just show you where it is. It's with these two marked bolts down here. They're red, right there and there. Those are the two bolts we'll need to remove. They're 12 millimeter. Alright, now we're gonna reach down and try to get to those 12 millimeter bolts. There's the first one. I'll get the one on the left first. So, let's see. And it's free now. Let's get the other one. Alright. Okay, that one was easier. Alright, now that that's free, I should be able to just reach down there and hand loosen these bolts. Set it somewhere nice and convenient, right up there in the notch. And let's get the second one now. Alright, with both of those off now. Now you see that it's loose. Alright. Kind of a tight space to work, but you'll see there's a hard line right there on the right here. You don't want to bend that. Alright, as you can see, I also removed the battery tray, which will make it easier for me to access. Getting the slave cylinder out. So this is a 10 millimeter bolt down there. That's the one you need to get to. And you'll loosen that up so you can pull the slave cylinder up and get it off without bending the hard line. Alright, then again you gotta stick this somewhere safe. Now with all that detached, this plate should come up and off. See the black plate there? The bracket? Alright, it's loose now. But it's also connected to the hard line, so you gotta be careful. What you gotta do over here, if you look, there's a piece right here. You gotta push it back and out. And then the rest, you can just got the slave cylinder out. You can see. Looks like this. It looks like this. We have to detach it right here so we can get working on the slave cylinder. Alright, so I guess some other tools you're gonna need is a 10 millimeter ratchet or wrench, whatever, and an adjustable wrench. I don't have the right size wrench for this bolt here. It's probably, I think it's about 16, maybe 17 millimeters. You're gonna have one hold this one while the other one twists the other side, or it's just gonna hold the other side while you twist because you don't want to bend the hard line. Alright, so if it's broken loose, you should be able to loosen it up by hand now. Alright. There you go. Oh, fuck. But you want to prop that up so you don't drip any. Got the slave cylinder removed. Now get to removing the locking ring. Okay. So now that I finally got the ring out from this side, the way I got it out was I actually took the straight one and I pushed it into the middle at the rear. And what that does is it pushes it down from the groove. And while you have that pushed down, I also had the cylinder, the slave cylinder, actually propped between my knees, and so it'd be easier if you had a vice grip or something to hold it in place. And then I actually used this that slightly bent hook, and I actually pushed it into here and propped it under it and pried it up. and then that led this side out, and eventually I was able to get the rest of the ring out. And now that we got that part out, we can pull this out using needle nose pliers, this part right here. And I won't be able to show you with one hand, or maybe I can. Let's see. Alright. You can reach in. Alright. So I got the damn delay valve removed. There it is. This is a sucker that's messing up the shifts. And I put the cap back on at the end with the ring. And now everything is just reverse installation. And then we'll get to bleeding. Alright, so this is the process I use to bleed my clutch. What some people recommended was actually using a hose. If you see that silver tip right there, that's where it bleeds from. So you actually need to attach the holes to that. You need to use an 8mm socket to loosen it up. When you're finished loosening it up, tighten it back by hand, but not too tight. Just tighten it to the point where no fluid is leaking out. And then next, you want to come up here. This is the clutch reservoir. And you can see this is the minimum line, the maximum line. You don't want it to drop below the minimum line because it'll start sucking in air. And so you're going to open that up and make sure it's topped off to the max line. And then what you want to do now is you're going to come into here, and there's a clutch pedal. You're just going to push down, and you can do that a couple times. And then once that's done, you'll have to come down here and loosen up the valve again. You loosen it up, and it should spurt out. It'll spurt out if there's air. If there's not too much air, it won't spurt too much. Then you tighten it back up by hand. So you're gonna make sure you can keep loosening it up and tightening it by hand. It makes it much quicker. And then you have to go back, check the reservoir, make sure it's up to the max level, and then you're gonna come back again, continue the process, push on the clutch pedal. You're gonna go back, release the valve, close the valve, fill the reservoir, and you keep repeating the process until you get a nice steady little drizzle instead of the spurts. And then you want to make sure there's no air in the brake fluid that's coming out of the bleeder valve. And once you do that a couple times, or probably more than a couple times, it really depends how much air you have in your system. Eventually, with enough bleeding, you can actually leave the valve slightly open so that when you press on the clutch, it'll allow the valve to bleed while you're pressing on the clutch. But you gotta be careful that you don't bleed it too much, because as I said before, you don't want that reservoir to get below level. And but you know, I highly recommend doing this with another person. If you're doing it yourself, it's really, you have to be very careful. Once you get that all set up again, you can start testing the clutch pedal. Basically, you're just gonna check and make sure you're actually getting that clutch to disengage. One other thing you can do is actually start your car, and when your car is started, press on the clutch and check the shifter to make sure your shifter can move, because then that means the clutch is actually disengaged. If it doesn't move, and if the clutch has no feel to it, then you need to continue bleeding your system. Realistically, you would want as much help as you can get. 2 people at least. One person to spot the reservoir and bleed, and the other person to press the clutch pedal. And then once everything's back together again, all you need to do is enjoy the car.